This is the first movie of summer 2014. Are we off to a good start? Let's find out. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a movie that is the sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man, and it expands upon what the first movie did, and the villain of this movie is Electro, played by Jamie Foxx. He's out to get Spider-Man. There's Harry Osborn, he's out to get Spider-Man. There's Rhino in there somewhere, he's out to get Spider-Man. A lot of people are trying to get Spider-Man in this movie, all the while he's trying to juggle all these other things in his life, trying to still find out what happened to his parents and trying to juggle his relationship with Gwen. There's a lot going on in this movie, and does Sony handle it well? Well, maybe. Going into this movie, I was fairly excited. Originally, when I reviewed The Amazing Spider-Man, I gave it like a 5 out of 5 or whatever. Upon rewatch, that movie loses some of its luster. It's not the best Spider-Man movie by far, but it's still an enjoyable movie, and I thought that this movie could expand upon that world and make it bigger and better, and they sort of did that with this movie. This movie is a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. Let's start off with the positives. Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man. He pulls off the character really well, and I felt he did a better job with Peter Parker in this movie than he did in the last one, because in the last one, even before he got his powers, he was still pretty cocky, which I don't see that as Peter Parker, but now in this movie, he's Spider-Man, everyone loves him, so I can get him being more cocky. And his relationship with Gwen, played by Emma Stone, is great. They have fantastic chemistry together. They are just so much fun to watch. And Emma Stone gives a great performance as well. Another big bright spot in the movie is Dane DeHaan playing Harry Osborn. I thought he was great in this movie. He gave his character a lot of depth, and Dane DeHaan is just always great, but the way he played his character, I thought, gave him a sympathetic side almost, not quite. Because he's still a villain, but Dane DeHaan always gives, like, tragic-ish performances, so that's what I'm trying to say here. And moving on from that, you also have Paul Giamatti in a glorified cameo as Rhino, and he was okay, I guess. I mean, like I said, I still don't love the design of Rhino. I kind of warmed up to it. I don't hate it. And seeing it in action in the movie The Rhino Suit was pretty fun. It was a small action sequence, but it was fun to watch. But Paul Giamatti's accent is just so incredibly over the top that I couldn't take any of his dialogue seriously. I mean, I get that he's having some fun in the role, but I think he went a little too far. And I've been waiting to say this one last. Jamie Foxx's Electro, I was really excited to see because Jamie Foxx is a great actor, and in the trailers, Electro had a cool look. He seemed like he could be the type of villain that could be awesome. But they he's just kind of there in the movie for action sequences. I mean, they give you a bit of a backstory for him and try and, you know, make you feel bad for him. It doesn't quite work, in my opinion. I mean, I like Jamie Foxx because he's a good actor and he pulls off his lines as well as he can, but I just never quite felt for his character, Max Dillon. But the real reason he was there was for action sequences, and they succeeded in that aspect. The action in this movie is fantastic. It is so much fun to watch. The CGI, some of the CGI in the trailers I thought looked pretty iffy, but they cleaned it up for the most part in the movie. There's only a few shots where I was like, oh, that could have been done a little bit better, but it didn't really take me out of the movie at all. I still had a blast watching the action sequences, especially that scene in Times Square in New York when Electro just shows off his powers for the first time. It's just so cool and so much fun to watch. And the music in that scene was really awesome. And at the end, when Green Goblin finally comes in, that is my favorite action sequence in the movie. It only lasts like a few minutes, but it was just so intense. It was in a very small, confined area, so I felt the intensity, like they're just right there fighting each other. There was nowhere for them to go. I said before, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield had great chemistry in this movie, and they focused a lot on the Gwen and Peter relationship, and they did that aspect really well, because you get to see certain parts at the beginning of the movie about how Peter's haunted by Captain Stacy, and how he broke his promise to him, and they explored that, and they explored it in depth, and it worked really well. My problem is the fact that there are so many subplots in this movie that certain other parts of the movie get bogged down, like the Electro part. I felt like he could have been the main villain. There was no real main villain in this movie to me. Like, they just were all kind of there and they had their moment, but there was no overarching villain, I thought, in the movie, because Electro, he does his action scenes, but he's sidelined for the rest of the movie, so he's not like a main villain, and Green Goblin doesn't come in until the end, and Rhino, he's just kind of there. Back to my point, I mean, there's so many subplots they have to do. There's a subplot with Aunt May, and she's doing stuff. You have a lot to do with the Gwen and Peter relationship, but that was necessary. There's a subplot with Harry and his father and what they have to do. There's a subplot for Peter and his parents. They just try and juggle so much in this movie and introduce certain things. Like, they're trying to do the Avengers world building type thing that Marvel has done so incredibly well, and it works. Like, most of it works, but there are just certain parts of it that I felt didn't, and that's what brought down the movie for me, because I can see where they're going with the next movie. They set it up really well, and I really do want to see it, but they're just trying to do a little bit too much, in my opinion, and they should scale it back a bit in the next movie so they don't just overstretch themselves doing too much. And this movie has a few sad moments in it. There's just one that, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a really sad moment in the movie that really got to me and had me feeling bad for a character. And there's a few stupid lines in the movie, like Electro, I'm trying not... I don't remember any specifically, but I know Electro rattled off a few really cringeworthy lines that you would have seen out of, like, Batman Forever or something, but I expect a few stupid lines in superhero movies at this point. I mean, Man of Steel had some last year, so it doesn't bother me that much, but it's worth noting. So The Amazing Spider-Man 2 improves upon the original, has great action in it, it has a fantastic chemistry between its two leads. I felt they did Harry Osborn really well. It does overstretch itself a little bit, and I feel like they kind of wasted Electro as a character, but you know what, I still had a great time watching it. I'm gonna give it a B+. If you enjoy Spider-Man, I'm sure you'll like this movie. Unless you didn't like the reboot, then you might not enjoy this movie. So what'd you guys think of The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Who was your favorite villain in this movie? Mine, personally, was Green Goblin by far. Write beautiful comments down there and tell me what you think, and if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down there, because if you don't, I'll fall into a vat of eels and then I'll get electrocuted and I'll use my newfound electricity powers to try and electrocute you. That was a little bit ridiculous.